you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me Shreyansi Singh and with me is Cheryl D'Souza, and over the next 1 hour we'll take you through news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should keep on your radar and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. First things first, let's take a look at the Wall Street then. Good morning Cheryl, how did the Wall Street really fare then?
Good morning to you, Shreyansi. And if you look at the Wall Street, it was a okayish move coming in for the Wall Street. If you look at the way how it shut shop, you had Dow that managed to notch a record close, but actually traded absolutely flat with positive buys. You had S&P 500 that ended higher as well, and this both of these indices were awaiting, or rather are awaiting, the nvidia's quarterly report, which will be released later today. So on back of that, you had the S&P 500 ending in the positive territory. You had Dow Jones that ended logged in a fresh record close as well. If you look at the heavyweight tech stocks, there was a mixed performance coming in on that particular front, while NVIDIA shares actually saw an uptick of about 1.5% on an intraday basis. Also, if you look at what Apple did, it closed higher by about 0.4%, while you had Amazon that dipped about 1.4%. S&P 500, like I mentioned, ended the positive territory, ditto coming in for NASDAQ as well. So yes, all in all, it was an okayish way of move coming in for the US market. The data on Tuesday actually showed that the US consumer confidence rose to a 6-month high in the month of August, while the consumers also became more anxious about the labor market, especially after the unemployment rate had actually jumped to a near 3-year high last month. So yes, you had an economic data, and there are a slew of economic data later this week as well. So the Wall Street is eyeing that, with the Dow ending on a record closing high for a second consecutive session.
Well, absolutely, and there's lots to look at when you take a look at crude oil as well as crypto. Firstly, let's take a look at crude oil. Then in US, crude oil futures fell more than 2% to close below that $76 per barrel mark after surging in the previous session on reports that OPEC member Libya will be halting production as well as exports. Now, Libya produces about 1.2 million barrels per day, with the overwhelming majority of its crude exported to the global market. So that's an important update coming in there, and European nations also serving as the main buyers. So US oil surged because it is the best substitute then for importers looking to replace lost Libyan supply. So this is going to be an important one there. When you take a look at WTI, you're looking at levels around $75 a barrel. A downtick of about 2.4% coming in for WTI. When you take a look at Brent as well, you're looking at a downtick coming in of about 2.3% there as well. Both contracts are up on a year-to-date basis, but when you take a look at Brent levels, it was currently around those $79 per barrel levels. Now, Goldman, of course, slashed its forecast for Brent prices by $5 to a range of $70 to $85 per barrel, and expects the global benchmark to also average around $77 in 2025, and that is significantly down from their previous forecast of $82 when it comes to Brent as well. So that largely is the handover when it comes to Brent. When you take a look at cryptocurrencies, fell on Tuesday even as this was after Asia futures pointed lower, triggering a wave of liquidation on the Bybit exchange. So when you take a look at the price of Bitcoin, you're looking at a dip coming in of 6.2% coming in for Bitcoin. Ether as well tumbled more than 8%. So that's an important move coming in for both Bitcoin as well as Ethereum.
Alright, so that's the way how the commodity markets, crypto market actually panned out in the overnight trading session. But let's take a look at the events that you need to watch out for, because like I mentioned, there are a slew of economic data that you need to watch out for. Right from the United States, you have API weekly crude oil stock, gasoline production, as well as NVIDIA earnings that will be released later this evening. So watch out for that, and we'll have to watch out for how the US market actually trade on back of those developments. Apart from that, back home you have the HCL Tech Investor Day that everyone is eyeing out for. Key commentary coming out from the management on that particular note. Certain companies will be trading ex-dividend today. So you have Asahi India, Force Motors, Hindustan Zinc, as well as Higachi Industries that will be trading ex-dividend from today. Apart from that, let's take a look at the other events that one is watching out for. You have Bank of England policymaker that is likely to speak. You have Atlantic Fed president also that will be speaking today. And apart from that, you have Paralympic Games that kick off in Paris later this week. That is on September 8th, actually later next week. So watch out for all of those events to very closely.
Well, absolutely. Lots of events to keep an eye on, and there's also US consumer confidence that rose to a 6-month high in August amid optimism over the economic outlook. But Americans are becoming more anxious about the labor market after the unemployment rate jumped to near a 3-year high of 4.3% last month. The better than expected reading in consumer confidence reflected improved perceptions of business conditions over the next 6 months. The consumer confidence index increased to 103.3 this month, the highest level since February, from an upwardly revised 101.9 in July as well.
Alright, keeping it with the macros then, UBS Global Wealth Management has actually raised the odds of the US recession to 25% from 20%, citing weakness stemming from the softer jobs growth and the July unemployment data, which actually stoked the fears of a downturn. The brokerage house maintained that its base case of a soft landing for the economy, with the consumer spending broadly determining the trajectory of growth. However, it also called the outlook cloudy. Remember, earlier this month, JP Morgan had raised the odds of recession by the year end to 35%, while Goldman Sachs lowered its probability of the recession in the next 12 months to 20%. This they lowered after actually briefly going ahead and hiking the odds.
Alright, moving on, then market participants will be eyeing that key earnings report from tech darling nvidia. The stock's volatility is top of mind for Wall Street. Any indication of waning demand or that a leading cloud customer is modestly tightening its belt potentially translates into significant revenue slippage coming in. Now, analysts have also gone as far as to call it the most important stock in the world right now. The expectation largely is around a fourth straight quarter of triple-digit growth, but at a reduced pace of 112% to $28.7 billion. Investors will be paying particularly close attention to their forecast for the October quarter as well.
Alright, moving on, you have South Korea Samsung SDI that has completed an agreement with General Motors to build a joint electric vehicle battery factory in the United States of Indiana. If you look at the two companies, they will be investing about $3.5 billion to build a battery cell manufacturing plant with an annual production capacity of 27 gigawatt hours initially. Also, if you look at Samsung, they've indicated that the joint plant aims for mass production in 2027, and an annual capacity is expected to actually go ahead and potentially rise to 36 gigawatts hours under the expansion plans.
Alright, moving on, then keeping it with stocks though, back home, Bharti Airtel has inked a partnership with Apple to bring exclusive offers for Apple Music and Apple TV Plus to customers in India later this year. Apple TV Plus will be included on Airtel's video streaming service Xstream with premium Wi-Fi as well as postpaid plans, and users of the company's music streaming service Wing Premium will have access to offers on Apple Music as well.
Alright, so those are all the top global headlines to watch out for today. But with that, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Market Cafe. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will get you all the news back home, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Let's take a look at what the Asian markets are doing at this point in time. Remember, it was a very subdued close coming in for the US markets. And right now, if you look at the Asia screen, also pretty cautious moves coming in for Asia as well, because the investors are actually preparing for a slew of earnings that will actually set the tone going ahead. Remember, nvidia is set to report its earnings later today. Apart from that, if you look at South Korean markets, is edged slightly lower. You have Japanese markets that's actually still reeling under pressures, facing the headwinds from the recent appreciation in the yen. If you look at the US 2-year treasury yields, which are more sensitive to interest rate policies, that fell about 4 basis points in early Asian trade as well. Hang Seng right now, pretty flat in trade today. If you look at Shanghai, that one also is seeing negative moves. And back home, if you look at the SGX Nifty, GIFT Nifty, and if you look at the GIFT Nifty implied open, it is also indicating a very flat start coming in for the Indian markets with a negative bias. So that's the way how the markets are looking like at this point back home in Asia as well. Even the Australian market has slipped about 0.7%. So the picture here is not looking that great.
Well, absolutely. The picture is not looking that great when you look at the Asian screen, but the picture is looking great for us on the channel because we do have a power pack lineup for you. At 8:40, we'd be in conversation with Dr. Vikramjeet Singh Chatwal, Chairman and Full-Time Director at Medi Assist Group, to talk to us about that new acquisition of Paramount TPA. Moving on, at 9:20, we'd also be in conversation with Gautam Shah, the CMT founder and chief strategist at Goldilocks Premium Research, to talk to us about the markets and the trends that he sees shaping up. At 9:30, Amit Agarwal, Group CFO at Raymond, will tell us a little more about the company's growth outlook. And at 9:40 then, to discuss the scrappage policy push, we'll be in conversation with Vinod Agarwal, MD and CEO of VECV as well. And at 9:50, we'd also be discussing the same with Abhishek Gao-Shinde, Deputy Vice President Research, Sher Khan by BNP Paribas as well. At 10 a.m. then, we'll also be in conversation with Akhil Chaturvedi, Chief Business Officer as well as Executive Director, MOAMC, to talk to us about that 1 lakh crore AUM that has been surpassed. So keep an eye on all of those interesting conversations.
All right, so those are the conversations to watch out for very closely right here on ET Now. But before...
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get you some more news and updates then. In a fresh shot to get listed, the National Stock Exchange has filed for a no objection certificate with the market regulator SEBI for the approval of its IPO. Now, mind you that it had filed its DRHP in 2016 and is one of the most awaited IPOs on the street as well. In fact, my colleague Ankur Mishra is standing by to explain what this move really means. Ankur, help us understand what this really means. Help us put this into perspective then.
Yes, in order to make fresh efforts for listing, NSE has filed no objection certificate at SEBI. Now, this is important because remember, in Delhi High Court, SEBI had given an affidavit that NSE is yet to file NOC, which is required for the process of listing of NSE. So this part of the process has been completed by NSE by filing IPO's NOC. Now, as far as the response from SEBI is concerned, we need to wait and see whether or not this time the regulator is in favor of providing approval for listing, because remember in 2022 itself SEBI had got a fresh application from National Stock Exchange for listing, but there were few observations which was mentioned by SEBI, to which NSE did respond. However, the NOC was needed to be filed by NSE as part of the process. Remember, this plan of getting listed was on since 2016, but in 2019 it got halted due to co-location scam, and after that in 2022 fresh efforts were started, but now finally NOC has been filed. We need to wait and see whether or not the regulator gives final nod on listing of NSE.
All right, so that's my colleague Ankur Mishra actually explaining what this particular process means and what does this mean for NSE's IPO. Let's also hear out Nikunj Dalmia, who's the editor-in-chief of ET Now and ET Now Swadesh, and what he had to say about this.
NSE in its board meeting has decided to apply to SEBI an NOC, which is a no objection certificate, that, we want to revisit the IPO. Now, when NSE is applying for a NOC to SEBI, and SEBI in the past has raised some concerns which were in a sense becoming a roadblock for NSE's IPO, the board of National Stock Exchange, I'm sure, certainly feels that all those connections, all those concerns now have been duly addressed, and NSE as an organization and as a board, they have taken cognizance of all the concerns which the regulator has flagged off. So with that confidence, I think they are applying for a NOC. The process, I think, is still very clear. SEBI will take its time to examine why NSE has applied for an NOC. They perhaps would like to revisit the initial thesis as to why the NSE issue never got the clearance. And if that criteria is satisfactorily met, then SEBI may just take a favorable view on the NSE IPO. Having said that, this is not a clean chit. This is not a go-ahead. This is NSE's board decision that they would be going to SEBI. But whenever the issue comes, then looks like the deck could get clear sooner than later, if I'm trying to read in between lines here. NSE IPO perhaps would be a mega IPO at a global level. They have 90% plus market share in the derivative market. They have an annual profit which is of 2,400 crore plus. They have a dominant market share in all the categories of equity market. Also, NSE is one of the most respectable exchange in the world now, both in terms of size and also in terms of reach. So I put all those things into context here. This really could be, next couple of months really could be very exciting from NSE standpoint and from an investor standpoint, given that NSE IPO is one of the most anticipated IPO in Indian capital markets.
All right, well, that's the editor's take, but let's move on. We also caught up with Sandeep Parekh, the managing partner at FinSec Law Advisors. Listen to what he had to say as well.
I guess it should happen fast if SEBI gives its word. I think there were certain issues which I think for some reason SEBI was not happy with the disclosure-based because they wanted closure to some of the pending cases which which NSE had ongoing. Hopefully, that's an old chapter now, and SEBI does indeed give a go ahead, and I think it'll be good to have an exchange which is listed because the other two competitor exchanges are already listed. So I think it'll be good to have the transparency and the liquidity in NSE.
All right, that's Sandeep Parekh's view. But hear out what Ashish Kumar Chauhan, who's the MD and CEO of NSE, who had spoken to us at the ET Now Leadership Dialogues 2024. He had commented on the priorities of the exchange and where about the process for IPO was. Listen in.
I don't have any comments on listing, but the way we look at it is our main job is to act as a frontline regulator. Sure. We also provide service, so we make profits. But that is a byproduct of a job well done. Well done. Right? If we miss out on the regulatory framework, that profit has no relevance. Of course, profit is for the shareholders. Yeah. They own it. And employees have no right over it. So people may think that the CEO may be getting great bonus. We don't. But effectively, for us, our job is to be the most compliant exchange in the country and continue to help India create wealth, help in wealth creation of the country. And if country continues to benefit out of our activities of regulatory type, they will continue to reward our shareholders with some profits. But profit in our kind of a situation where we are frontline regulators cannot be the main purpose.
All right, that was important commentary coming in, but let's move on to some more important news that we'll be tracking this morning. Then Dinesh Kumar Khara has resigned as the director of SBI Cards and Payment Services following the completion of his term as the chairman of the State Bank of India. C.S. Setty, who currently acts as one of the 4 managing directors of the bank, is also set to take over as the 27th chairman of SBI immediately after. So that's an important update coming right there, Cheryl.
Absolutely an important development with SBI, but let's talk about the auto sector and the important development there because it's a big boost coming in for the scrappage policy for the automakers, and this because the road minister Nitin Gadkari has met with leading PV and CV makers and they've asked them to go ahead and offer discount on exchange for the vehicles for scrappage. My colleague Samir is here to tell us what's the importance of this, what the road minister is saying and what the manufacturers are going to do going ahead. Samir.
So, Union Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari has appealed to the auto industry, specifically to SIAM, that to give a push to fleet modernization as well as to make more success the ongoing scrappage policy. the auto industry, they need to give certain discounts to commercial vehicles as well as to passenger vehicles. And the good part or the positive development is that now the auto industry, the commercial vehicle manufacturers as well as passenger vehicle manufacturers, they have agreed to the demand, to the appeal that has been raised by the Minister Gadkari, and now they have come up with a discount offer. So commercial vehicle manufacturer, they have proposed a discount of up to 3% on the commercial vehicles, which is 3.75 ton load capacity and above, and for the commercial vehicle which has a capacity of less than 3.75 load capacity, then for that there is a discount of up to 1.5%. Similarly, when it comes to the passenger vehicle manufacturer, they have proposed a discount of up to 1.5% or rupees 20,000, whichever is lesser. The German automaker Mercedes-Benz, they have given an announcement that they will provide an additional discount of rupees 25,000 over and above the existing discount that has been announced. So that's a positive development, and the entire exercise is that this will help to not just scrap the old vehicles which have completed their life cycle. For example, for diesel vehicle, it is 10 years, and for petrol-based vehicle, it is for diesel it is 10 years, and petrol-based vehicle it is 15 years. So they will be scrapped. This will give a push to circular economy and as well as a modernization of the fleet. So that's the important and the big development taking place in the auto sector.
Thanks, Amir, for all of those important updates coming in. Then moving on, then FM's Nirmala Sitharaman has commented on the unified pension scheme. She said that the UPS is not a rollback and PFRDA will continue to handle funds under the UPS as well. My colleague Prakash Priyadarshi is standing by with more details. Prakash, tell us a little more about this commentary then.
The finance minister has said that the unified pension scheme is not a rollback as being claimed by the opposition parties. In fact, it's a well-thought decision keeping all the financial implication in mind. FM has also mentioned that UPS is a complete different package, which is a mix of OPS and NPS, and that will provide sense of security to the central government employees. Along with that, the benefit will be given on pro rata basis if the service period is less than 25 years under UPS. Along with that, PFRDA will continue to handle funds under UPS going forward. When it comes to next GST Council meeting, the finance minister went on saying that GST Council will discuss mega rate rationalization under GST in its next meeting. As you are aware that a GOM has already been constituted on this issue, which has held some meetings. But since it's the first meeting where the discussion would be initiated, therefore GST Council will discuss the progress made so far, but no final decision would be taken. Along with that, she's also mentioned that the group of ministers will hold some more meeting on this issue and then finalize the report where the GST Council will take final call in latest meeting. When it comes to compensation assess, the finance minister has mentioned that the next GST Council meeting is likely to discuss this issue as well. However, final decision is unlikely to be taken.
All right, thank you so much for that, Prakash, for outlining that for us. But on that note, please slip into a break on this edition of Market Cafe. Stay tuned, more news will be outside, don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, as promised, let's get you the list of stocks that you should keep an eye on this morning. And Ria is standing by with just that list.
Yes, good morning. So let's take a look at the stocks in focus today. We have a lot of fundraise activity happening. Firstly, there's Skipper Limited, which is approved fundraising of up to rupees 600 crores via issue of equity or by way of a composite scheme of NCDs and warrants. There's also Jindal Stainless, which has approved fundraising at its EGM through the issue of eligible securities or equity shares. And we also have Fortis Healthcare, for which a board meeting is going to be held on the 30th of August to consider fundraising. Let's move on though to Zydus Life, which has received the final approval from the US FDA for amantadine extended release capsules 68.5 mg and tentative approval for the 137 mg capsules. Now this approval makes Zydus eligible for 180 days of exclusivity for amantadine extended release capsules for the 68.5 mg capsules. We also have an order win coming in from PNC Infra, which has been declared as the L1 bidder by the National Highways Authority of India for a project worth rupees 380 crores. And we also have UPL Limited, which has acquired additional 20% stake in PTXL Meg Indonesia for $6.85 million. Let's also talk about Gensol Engineering though, which has launched Scorpius Trackers Incorporated in the USA as a subsidiary subsidiary. Now this is being done to leverage the vast market potential in the US solar tracker market, which is the largest in the world at the moment, and deploys trackers aggregating over 25,000 megawatts annually. Now the US tracker market is growing at a robust CAGR of more than 20%, and the company is aiming to supply over 2,000 megawatts annually by 2028. And lastly, we are also keeping an eye on NBCC, which is going to consider a bonus issue on the 31st of August.
Thank you so much for that, Ria, for outlining all the stocks that we focus on back of news today. But let's find out what's the F&O snapshot for today. And we have Ansh standing by with that. Very good morning to you, Ansh.
Good morning, Cheryl. So let's start with what FIS did. So in the previous session, we saw that they added around 17,200 contracts on long side. They even covered 11,600 shorts. So net to net, we are seeing addition of almost 29,000 contracts on upside, due to which the total long percentage has gone up to 57.6% from 55.1%. Few sessions back only, we saw that the total FI long position was hovering just around 50%. And now we are seeing that there's a good uptick and it's a strong momentum which shows positive sign from FIIs. Now, if we talk about Nifty, the Nifty has been advancing from last 9 consecutive sessions. In the previous session, we saw that the index has closed almost flat but mildly in positive, which is a positive sign, and we missed that all-time high level by just 5 points. Currently, we are around 60 points away from that all-time high level. And tomorrow we have a monthly expiry, so we may see some good volatility today and tomorrow. Now, if we talk about rollover data, then for Nifty, we are seeing rollover at around 45% as compared to its 3 series average of 42%. But we may see some good build-up today in the rollover data. Whereas if we talk about index future for Nifty, we are seeing some mild short build-up happening, indicating slight cautious signal in index future. But if we talk about index options, then we are seeing very active call writing happening at that 25,300 strike price, indicating strong resistance around this level. Now, though it is indicating strong resistance, but it is still a positive sign because this resistance is around 300 points away from current level. Usually, most active call writing happens around 100 points away from current level only. So we have good space on upside. Now, if we talk about Nifty Bank, then we continue to trade above that gap zone, which is a positive sign, and we continue to close above that 51,000 mark. Also today we have F&O expiry, so we may see some good volatility, good action in banking stocks. Now, if we talk about rollover data, then rollover here is just 47% as compared to its 3 series average of 59%, which shows that traders are a bit cautious with the current trend. So they are not very confident on taking forward their current position in next series. Whereas if we talk about index option for Nifty Bank, then we are seeing strong put writing happening at around 51,000 psychological mark, indicating good support around this level. Actually, that's around 51,000, not 52,000. Now, if we talk about few F&O stocks that are in focus, then we are seeing very good rollover happening in Steel Authority, NMDC, IDFC First, PEL, Deepak Nitrite by around 60 to 75%. If we talk about low rollover data, then we are seeing Aditya Birla Fashion, Aarti Industry, Chambal Fertilizer, Birla Soft and IEX. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Well, absolutely, Ansh. We'll be keeping an eye on all of those counters. Thank you so much for that update. Well, as promised, we'll also get to the list of counters that make it to brokerage radar this morning. And Gaurav is standing by with that update. Gaurav, which are the ones that make it to brokerage radar bright and early this morning then?
Well, yes. First, begin with some of the counters in the name in the space of retail and restaurants, because Bernstein has now initiated on a few companies. So, in the retail space, they have initiated with outperform rating on DMart and Trend, whereas in the restaurant space, they have initiated with outperform rating on Jubilant and Devyani Foods. Other than that, they have also initiated on ABFRL and Westlife with underperform rating, while on Sapphire Foods, they have initiated with market perform rating. What they believe is that the demand beyond top 10% of the pyramid and beyond top 40 cities can be unlocked, and this could be a very big thing for these companies in retail space, and that is why they prefer DMart and Trend, because these companies have best in class revenue density as well as inventory turnarounds. When we talk about some restaurant brands, Jubilant Food and Devyani is some brands which they prefer, and the reason being that they have a long unwinding for the growth from here on, and what they also believe is that they have tight cost structures which can actually help the company from here on. What they don't like about ABFRL and why they have maintained underperform rating is that the company is funding its acquisition by debt, and that is why they have high debt levels. And for Westlife also, what they believe is that these company is going to be constrained by the high capex store approach, and that is why they are maintaining underperform rating on these counters. Other than that, let's also talk about telecom sector, because now UBS has hiked target price for some of the counters. For Airtel, they have hiked the target price to 1595 rupees. For Vodafone Idea, they have hiked the target price to 19 rupees. And for Indus Towers, while maintaining neutral rating, they have hiked the target price to 440 rupees. What they believe is that they are actually going by, giving a buy call on Vodafone, because they believe that this is going to be a play on a potential government relief measures which are likely to come in. What they also believe is that 60 to 75% of the tariff hike flow is going to get into revenues in the next 3 months, and that is why they are being a little bullish on these counters. And lastly, what they also believe is that they see some kind of downside risk in the consensus estimate, and that is why they are maintaining neutral rating to Airtel and Indus Towers. Lastly, let's also watch out for Indigo, because Axis Capital has now downgraded the rating to add while increasing the target price to 5,100 rupees, because they see limited upside to the company from here on. They also believe that the load factor is at 80% and at an optimal level, and that is why they see a limited upside for the company. So definitely watching out on these counters on the back of the brokerage note that we have received today.
All right, so those are the counters to watch out for on back of their brokerage note. But remember, you had L&T Tech that had come out or had held its analyst day. And there are some key takeaways coming in from their analyst day meet. They've also put up their investor presentation on the bourses, where they're saying they're expecting to post a revenue of about $1.26 to $1.28 billion in FY25. For FY24, if you look at it, the company's revenue rose by about 9.4% or to about 9,647 crore rupees, while the net profit also had seen a good uptick of about 7.6%. But what else the company is saying over the medium term, aspiring for a faster revenue growth, they are aspiring to achieve an 18 to 20% revenue CAGR. Also, they are saying that they are aiming to achieve the revenues of about $2 billion. Talking about the EBIT margin, they are saying they are expecting or they are targeting an EBIT margin of 17 to 18%, and they had anyways targeted an EBIT margin of about approximately 16% for FY25 as of now. But for the medium term, 17 to 18% is what they're aiming for. They're also aiming to be among the top 5 pure ER&D companies globally. Apart from that, they're saying that they go deeper with the scale strategy should aid their growth accelerations going ahead. Their acquisitions in the second half of this financial year can only drive the $1.5 billion revenue run rate for FY25. Also talking about their future roadmap. So the company is saying they are looking at a revenue size of about $50 to $150 million for acquisition, and they're not seeing any medium-term moderation even with the slowing down of the EV demand, and the deal pipeline is looking robust. So if you look at what Citi had to say, because post this particular analyst day and the commentary coming in from the management, you have brokerages that have written on the company, with actually Citi also coming out with a note where they're maintaining a buy stance. They've set a target of 221 rupees per share. They're saying that there's confident of no over leveraging risk for its MFI borrowers, and also they're saying the home loan led generation impact to be visible in the next few quarters. I beg your pardon, this is L&T Finance is what the Citi has spoken about. But L&T Tech, the management is pretty confident going ahead.
Well, absolutely upbeat commentary coming in from L&T Technology Services there. But moving on, then investors need to temper their expectations when it comes to the US market. And that is the word coming in from Mark Faber, editor and publisher of the Gloom, Boom and Doom report. He also advises investors to instead look towards precious metals as well. Listen into what he had to say then.
I don't think that is easy to achieve a 10% return per annum. If you're diversified, I like to be diversified. I have different currencies, and I have gold, and I have stocks. I think in some emerging markets, I could see that I could make maybe 10% per annum, including the dividends. The dividends would be, say, 5% per annum, and the stock return 5%, so maybe 10%. But I'm not sure that you make the 10% in real terms, inflation adjusted. That I wouldn't know. Assuming everything comes down, for whatever reason, everything comes down, how do I survive best? if everything comes down. So my view would be probably precious metals will go down less than other items. But, you know, if everything drops 50% and gold drops 20%, you are like a king because all your friends, they lost 50% and you only lost 20%.
All right, now let's shift to some global headlines or headlines making news back home as well. Ahead of the presidential elections in the United States, former US President and Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump accepted the debate with the current Vice President Kamala Harris, outlining specific conditions and rules for the face-off. This comes after Trump suggested over the weekend that he might cancel the debate amidst a feud between the campaigns over the rules. And Australia has announced that it will be limiting its international students' intake to 2.7 lakhs in 2025 in the bid to tackle record levels of migration that has led to skyrocketing housing rental prices. The limit includes higher education courses as well as vocational education and training courses. The move is a setback to the Indian students hoping to go abroad for higher education, especially those from Punjab, who accounts for a larger number of such students. And BJP in West Bengal has announced a 12-hour Bangla Bandh today in response to the alleged police brutality during the Nabana Abhijan protest. The Bandh scheduled from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and this is sparked by the student demonstration against the recent rape and murder of the trainee doctor at RG Kar Medical College and Hospital. The protest had escalated yesterday, leading to a chaotic scene where authorities resorted to using water cannons and tear gas to control the crowd.
Alright, on to some weather-related updates then. IMD has forecast heavy rainfall and issued an orange alert for Gujarat. The yellow alert is in place in several states across India. Predicting heavy downpours, the IMD issued a red alert in Saurashtra as well as Kutch regions of Gujarat where heavy rains over the past few days have disrupted day-to-day life. Gujarat has been witnessing a flood-like situation with waterlogging as well as inundation in several places. Moving on then, Jay Shah has been elected unopposed to be the next chairman of the International Cricket Council. He will take on responsibilities for the role from December 1st this year. Shah also becomes the youngest individual to lead the cricket body. Remember that he was the only nominee for the position after the current chair, Greg Barclay, chose to not seek a third term.
And with that, we are totally out of time on this edition of Market Cafe. It's a goodbye from Shreyansi, myself and the team to put the show together. But stay tuned, the market is coming up next.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.